name is Fernando. Yeah, my name is Fernando Zacarias, and I'm the principal mentor and program coordinator of MultiPOD mentoring. I'm also a medical doctor from Mexico, and my heritage is half Middle East, Lebanese, and the other half is Mexican. That's a blend from Spain and the native population of the Americas. And my main achievement in life, professionally, I think it has been what I was able to help start all the AIDS prevention programs in the countries of the Americas. And finally, something that you may want to remember me, or maybe will make me memorable, that even when you look at me, you will never think about that. But 50, 60 years ago, I was the lead dancer in a Dabke group in Mexico. Dabke is the folkloric dance of Lebanon. And the other part is I was a black belt in judo, and I used to be a songwriter and used to play guitar and sing. Now I cannot do that any longer, but you will remember that. That's the example of what we are going to do. And then let me start with the update on MultiPOD. Please, Charlie, okay. So far, 267 mentees, and you can see that almost 80% are young females and 20% are males. This is something that has been happening since the very beginning of the program. The main mentors, we have currently 57 who see their mentees, and they are almost 50-50, and we're very proud of that because when we started, it was 90% male and only 10% female. I emphasize the number of disciplines represented because I think we are the only program or one of the few programs who admit everybody. We have about 6 different types of engineers, and we have lawyers, and we have people who have not worked in global health or human development. And that's what we have expanded the focus of our program to include also environmental policy and management, what will be conservation, protection, and preservation. And we are also very proud of the number of languages that our mentors and mentees speak, and we have already put good use to that. And most of our participants are multilingual, and some of them speak up to 6 or 7 languages. We also have connections to academic centers and universities from all over the world. And I think there may be more than 120, and they include prestigious institutions like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Emory, all India institutes, Peking University, et cetera, et cetera. Next one, please. Now, we have 102 countries, and you can see the distribution by regions and then by subregions. And as you can see, we need more people from Africa, and we need more people from the Americas, from Latin America and the Caribbean, because we have 48 countries and territories, and we have only half. The same thing, and even worse, with Africa. With Asia, we need practically people from all over. From Oceania, we already have Australia and New Zealand. So next one, please. And please help us to recruit some more people from other countries. And my last point is that we have 5 generations, 5 sociological generations presented here. And we are about 2 from the silent generation, from the World War II. Then we have the baby boomers and Generation X. All of those are mentors. And then we have the millennials. And now we have a new generation, Generation Z, that already meets the requirements for 24 years to enter the program. One feature that is very important is that the millennials, we already have 11 millennials who are acting as mentors. And we expect that more and more generations will be joining us in the future. Please, Charlie, I will give Charlie Chang, who is our assistant coordinator, the word, and she will explain to you what we are going to do next. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Yes. Hi, everyone. So now we'll start to introduce ourselves to each other. And now, since we have less participants at this moment, so we can each take, I guess, 2 minutes. So state your name, your discipline, country where you were born, and your heritage, and what you're currently doing, and what do you expect to do in the future, and your greatest achievement of any kind thus far, and a surprising characteristic or talent. So I will start. My name is Charlie. I have my education in European Union politics and law. I am originally from China, 100% Chinese, and now I'm in Egypt. I'm working for MultiPOD. I used to be a mentee, and I expect in the future that I can help to develop MultiPOD and also work for a nonprofit working with women. And my greatest achievement so far, I guess, is I came to the Netherlands when I was 17 for my studies, and now I'm living a good life in Egypt. And wherever I went, I managed to build communities with the locals and connect people together. A surprising character or a surprising thing about me is that I used to be very scared of water, and I came to the Red Sea. I learned how to swim, and I'm gonna learn how to dive. So that's me, and I will be using this, or I would just call names from my screen. And if you're not ready, we will go to the next one. So I want to ask if Jessica Smith, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, Jessica Smith. My name's Jessica Tromposh. It just says Jessica Smith on there. I had a moment of like, is there another Jessica? Do I have to wait? So my name's Jessica Tromposh. I'm from Canada, born and raised in Canada. My heritage is, there's a wide variety of heritage, some of it coming from Finland, some of it coming from Hungary, some of it just coming from England, Scotland. Pretty much I'm a typical Canadian nut, as we say here. Right now, I'm a registered nurse. I'm working in transitions at one of the hospitals here. So I am the bridge between a hospital and we are public community services here. In the future, I'm going to get my master's. I'm hoping to do something in the public health, global health sphere in terms of reducing inequalities, looking at sustainability, and potentially disaster management if I can swing it too. My greatest achievement, that one's a little tougher for me. I think one of the weird things that I'm strangely proud of is I actually got commissioned to make a wedding cake the other day, which was a very proud moment for me because I've always wanted to make a wedding cake for as long as I've been making cakes. So that's also a surprising characteristic about me is that I make pretty awesome cakes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Let's see.
It was Jessica Tromposh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just calling names from the screen,
Okay.
like their Zoom names. So Madi, are you ready?
Hi, Charlie. Thank you. Yeah, I can introduce myself quickly. My name is Mahdi Abdulwahab. I'm a global health advisor at KIT, Royal Tropical Institute. I'm originally from Egypt. So good to see you, Charlie, are enjoying your time there. And I'm now living in the Netherlands. So that's where I am now. And I hope in the future, yeah, I'm focusing now on areas of capacity building and sustainable development, sustainable capacity building specifically. So trying to, because we have educational programs, and our master's program is 100% students from African and Asian countries. I hope that they don't have to come here to learn and depend on such programs in other countries and in the future. And I guess that's my hope. And the greatest achievement, I guess, for every year, the graduation ceremony of participants, I I graduated in the same program 5 years ago, and since then I had the chance to be working in the education program and as a coordinator of the master's program. And I guess it's very rewarding attending the graduation ceremony and seeing how much participants had benefited from the program and their kind of reflections on it. And the other achievement on another kind, totally different kind, is I just started learning how to take photos with a film camera again. So I'm developing it at home. So now I was very happy yesterday developing my first ever film at home. It seems like a very retro thing, but it's also seems an achievement to me in that sense. Surprising characteristic or talent. I don't know if it's characteristic specifically. I like photography. I take nice photos, I guess, and at certain parts of times I did sell photo frames, make photo sessions, and sell stock photos. Even make more short advertising films, but otherwise that's that.
Charlie, can I ask you something? Oh, okay, Charlie, can I ask you something? Can I make just a little comment about the people that I know?
Sure, you have 10 seconds if you want, or more.
Mahdi has said.
I finished my part.
Okay. Mahdi has said a beautiful picture when he was going to Mount Sinai in Egypt, that you have to hike, and you have done that all night to see the sun rise. And he's been doing that, and he's an excellent photographer. He's very modest, but that's him. And Jessica can do everything. And now with the COVID, she has continued to work and provide health services to people in the province of Alberta. Of Alberta. Thank you. So, call somebody else.
Thank you. Amali, are you ready to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Yep. Hi, I'm Emily. My discipline, I would say, is pharmacy, but it's really broadened out. Basically, I was trained as a pharmacist. I still practice as one, but currently I'm working in Finland as a postdoc in the Department of History and Ethnology. So I'm working on a medical history and political science project, looking at health crisis and how governments manage health crisis. But I'm going, actually, I've been offered a teaching fellow position at back where I did my PhD. So I'm going to teach pharmacists again. I mean, today I applied for my visa to go back to London, but I'm actually Australian. I was born in Australia, but my heritage is Chinese. I hope in the future, all of this was trying to move into global health. I can actually go and get a job in global health. My greatest achievement so far, I suppose, not so much professionally, but being able to run a marathon, because for many years I didn't do any exercise, and a lot of people doubted that I would be able to run till the end, and I surprised everyone. And I was also kind of really anti-running for a very long time. So it was challenging myself and also others as well. And a surprising talent is, I don't know, I like eating so much, I take part in eating competitions sometimes. That's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Amalie, something interesting about Amalie, in addition to the fact that she's Australian, is that she's a pharmacist. And we have about 6 pharmacists from Serbia. And we also have from some of the African countries. So as you see, we are really an interdisciplinary group. And Amalie is working on something else right now, but she's going back to pharmacy. It doesn't matter. She's going to be working at the global level at some point in her life. Okay.
Thanks. I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can still talk if you want.
Oh no, I was trying to say that this year in the humanities, I have been, I mean, it was my way of trying to get into global health and understand society, history, and go in this direction, but I'm pulled back and hopefully I can go in this direction again. That's all.
Thank you. Juan Manuel, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Always ready. My name
Thank
is
you.
Juan Manuel Sotelo. I am Peruvian, and I'm also an American, and I'm a medical doctor by training. Also, I'm specialized in public health, and I did political science also. I have a PhD in political science. Currently, I live in Philadelphia, working as an associate professor in the University of Pennsylvania. And I also work on my LLC, which does some consultancies in the area of health and development, and also participate very actively in the Association of Former Staff Members of PAHO WHO. I'm a member of the board, and also in an association of colleagues called GIA, Global Health International Advisors. So this is the type of things I'm doing now. About what I would like to do in the future, I would like to continue contributing to global health, and also about my main achievement or greatest achievements. I have quite a few, but I would like to highlight the fact that in the mid-90s, I was the leader of the renovation of the Call of Health for All in the Americas. So this is something I treasure very much, and it provides me the opportunity to do networks, to really have national consultations in all the countries of the Americas, and finally a major commitment arise again towards a goal that has no expiration date now. It's health for all, that it has turned into universal health coverage now. Surprising characteristics, well, I love to cook, and I'm not doing so bad in that. I have made major improvement. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity, Fernando, to be part of this intentional net weaving exercise. First time I do that intentionally, but it is great so far.
Okay, thank you, Juan Manuel. Juan Manuel is very modest. He's been a friend and colleague for decades. I don't want to say how many, PAHO, but he was also the representative of PAHO WHO in several countries, and including Mexico, Argentina, and Chile, for example. But he was also in charge of planning and the part on external relations of the Pan American Health Organization. And he was the president of the Global Health International Advisors, which is a think tank of not so young people based in Washington, DC. Okay, and I haven't tasted his food, but I may go to Philadelphia one day. Okay.
Yeah.
So next one, please.
Thank you. What about young Luke? Are you ready to introduce yourself?
Well, like the Bar Scout, we have to be always ready, no? Hi to everybody. Such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be part of that wonderful initiative. Very, very thrilling. So Jean-Luc Poncelet, discipline, well, I'm not very disciplined, so that's how to start maybe. I'm a medical doctor and MPH. I work as a general practitioner, and I think I love it so much that I end up not doing it anymore. And so going to public health for several reasons, and ending up in working disaster management for most of my life, for 35 years. Particularly interested in now in the crisis management aspect. So we have to discuss with Amalie one day on managing crisis in COVID, as it is really at the edge of disaster, crisis, and politics, where everything is mixed together, including rethinking the future of our life. So that's introduced me to what I'm doing now is really a research on the connection between managing disaster from the national point of view, so not the health aspect of it, but the crisis aspect of it, and see what is the connection between what is a crisis per se, from what is politics, from what is a health issue. So trying to dissect and separate the crisis aspect from COVID, which is really a challenge because especially non-medical people want to still believe that COVID is a health issue. It's just amazing to see the difficulty of that one. What I'm expected to do in the future, well, to continue to contribute in my little business, which is, has a kind of a lovely name towards, a safer world, which is, I think, really trying to contribute at reducing the impact of crisis on people. Because what I learned from working in disaster management is that crises are not a fact of nature, are not a fact of the other, is because we build our vulnerability little by little. If we have a car accident, it's not because the car is bad. Most of the time because we drove it in a reckless way and we didn't learn to do it. So really is to try to share the lesson with MultiPOD and with all the colleagues we have in the network of my business in research and other part of it. I think the greatest achievement probably is the Safe Hospital Initiative, an idea so that we can, although working in public health, we have to take into account what is engineering, because if you don't realize in what building you are working, well, the earthquake will remember you that you were right or wrong to be in that building the day that you have an earthquake. So the Safe Hospital Initiative allows to now change the profile of building hospitals, especially in the Caribbean. There are already several hospitals have been built against that type of rules and regulation. Surprising characteristic of talent, well, I don't know, brewing beer. Maybe I have to join Juan Manuel in a wonderful meal there one day, so that we can exchange our recipe. Over, Charlie. Pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you.
Can I interrupt again?
Yes, sure.
I want to say something. Both Juan Manuel and Jean-Luc are mentors, and this is a unique feature of MultiPOD mentoring. In addition to their assigned mentees, they also see other mentees in a short consultation or whatever is needed. And many times mentees ask to talk to somebody who is in a field that they're interested in. And both Jean-Luc and Juan Manuel have been very, very kind and have participated in many sessions with other mentees. Boom. This is an advertisement for all the mentors in the program. And for you, mentees, so that you can get in touch with more people. Thank you.
Thank you. What about Sue? Are you ready to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sue Griffey. I was born in the USA in New York, and I'm still in the US, although traveled and lived overseas a lot for part of my career. I'm like Jean-Luc. My discipline is I was a retired program evaluator, primarily reproductive health, MCH, primary health care, and then HIV/AIDS. But now what I'm doing is mentoring in both programs like MultiPOD and individuals. And that's what I'm going to do in the future. I'm coalescing more materials and support and trying to reach more people, as Fernando is with the MultiPOD program, so everybody has a chance. My greatest achievement, it's hard to say this is a greatest achievement without explaining it, but I envisioned retirement as a fourth act in my career, or different pathways in my career. And I think I was surprised to find out how my fourth act developed, and mentoring became a full-blown way to continue to give back. And the surprising characteristic is that some of you who are on this call know how much I love technology, but I'm still a 3-finger typist and produce everything using 3 and maybe 4 fingers. So Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you.
Something
Do you have
about
any
Sue?
comments, Dizzy?
Yeah, something about Sue. She is a mentor in about 6 or 7 programs. She's one of the most sought after mentors. And the advice that she gives everybody, I think is very, very correct, that you are the only one who can really describe your life and what you want. And the second one is that you may end up doing something that is not what you initially intended to do. And this is what I mentioned to my mentees. You think that you made a so-called mistake going into one direction, you are young enough to go in another direction. The only point is that you have to be effective in whatever you do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What about Jeremy Collymore? Are you ready to introduce yourselves? Because all the other remaining participants are not sharing their video, so I'll just call. Thank you.
With a video, yeah.
Yes, good day to all. Jeremy Collymore. I'm a Barbadian, and I was born and Barbadian still, although I'm very Caribbean at heart, having lived and worked in many of these countries. I am a geographer with a strong background in environmental design and planning. And what I'm doing now, I operate in several spaces, one at university, and an honorary research fellow in the Institute of Sustainable Development. And from that space, I am championing the idea of resilient higher education institutions. Starting with UWI, the principle is that we must start with house in order if you want to talk about resilience. And so we are collaborating with the regional higher tertiary institutions and the Association of Commonwealth Universities in promoting that agenda. At the country level, I'm championing the idea of a resilient Caribbean state and a resilient Caribbean space. So I'm operating between what I call academia and practice to build that coalition for interfacing. And so that's a key thing that I'm doing. The third thing that I am doing is part of this. So I am mentoring in several spaces, several formal and some not formal, including within the ACU, Association of Commonwealth Universities Climate Futures Program, some young cohorts, and within the university, young academics and students who are seeking professional guidance. What do I expect to do in the future? My future really is a very continuous space, but I want to capture some of the experiences and lessons that I've gone through and kind of frame them so that that history of the change and development of disaster risk management and resilience in the Caribbean is going forward. But more importantly, I really want to build a cadre of activists who believe in this whole agenda of resilience, and I'm working very strong on that. So my greatest achievement, I would say my contribution as opposed to achievement. I have always been a kind of a social activist, really pushing for justice and equity at all levels. So even from a young person, I'm very much leading 4-H groups and church organizations and so on. But I would say one of the things that most people recognize me for is my work in building the institutionalization of disaster risk management in the Caribbean. Much of that work started early with John Luke. He came to the Caribbean at the time. And shortly, I've just, sorry, my battery is going down. I've just completed an assignment for the Vice Chancellor of the University for the establishment of a Global Institute for Climate Smart and Resilient Development, which was launched last week. And that really is going to be a space where we are using academic research and tools to collaborate and build resilience for that pathway for his development in the Caribbean. Well, people who know me know that I like to dance, but lots of people are still surprised that I do dance. Like some of you there, I consider myself as a more than just a cook. I want to say that I'm born on the line of sous chef. Sometimes that has some expectations in terms of hosting people and so on. But I have had in the Caribbean, my association with cricket, playing for my school and my village clubs, and football and hockey. I did have the course dominoes. So you see, all of my activities are very spatial and interfacing with people. So that's Jeremy Collymore in short.
Thank you. DC,
comment?
do you have any comments? Yeah.
Of course, a comment. We were very happy when Jeremy accepted to be a mentor in the program. And basically because we knew about him and because of what he's doing. And what I'm most grateful is that he has agreed to meet other mentees. I think it's Jessica, the one who asked to meet with both Jeremy and Jean-Luc, because she's also interested in that area of resilience building and crisis management. But that's one example. The second one is because of his working in the academic community, the University of the West Indies, which is also a very prestigious university with 4 campuses in the Caribbean. And the other one is, I want everybody to know that the Caribbean to me, first is my first love, my girlfriend. I started in Jamaica, my career. And one of the points is that the Caribbean is almost like a country, it's a community, it's a commonwealth, and people know each other and know of each other mainly or many times because they have gone to the same school, the same college. Even if you are from Trinidad and Tobago or any other place, you know about other people. And by the way, Jeremy, I already have the address of Charlia Smith from the Bahamas. Okay, so thank you. Another mentee.
Thank you. Jessica Fraser, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for opening up this networking session for us. My name is Jessica Fraser and I live in London. I was born in London but grew up in the States, hence why my accent's a bit mixed. But I studied most recently my research master's in Amsterdam, actually at the Vrije University Amsterdam, which is in collaboration with the University of Amsterdam, works closely with the KIT. So it was great to hear from one of my mentors that he's working with the KIT and the Amsterdam Institute of Global Health and Development. So I just completed that 2 years ago now. And now I work for the Tropical Health and Education Trust, which is an international NGO working to improve education for healthcare workers around the world. And I specifically work on the antimicrobial resistance program. And so it was also really great to hear there's a lot of pharmacists involved in this program, and on the call I work closely with pharmacists because of all the antimicrobial resistance work. So yeah, really nice to hear from you and hear about your work as well. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment, which is really interesting. And that was what my thesis was on, working with the Africa CDC and Chatham House, which is a think tank based in the UK as well. So yeah, I guess, greatest achievement so far is really hard one to choose, but I guess I think on this kind of similar topic, I was thinking of something that was just a lot of work and a lot of energy, and that was actually research publications about the work that I did during my master's. And I'm sure a lot of people know how much time and work that takes to get something published. So that's probably something that I'm quite proud of. And then actually recently, I think Amelie also mentioned marathon. So I also last week ran the London Marathon for the first time, which was amazing, actually a really amazing experience and much more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, so I guess hopefully I'll just keep up running, because it was yeah, it was really enjoyable. So lovely to meet you all, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here today.
Thank you.
Jessica Fraser embodies what we are looking for in mentees. This ability to work in many, not only institutions, but in many disciplines. You all are what I would call multi-potentialites, people who have lots of interest, lots of skills, a capacity to work in many areas. And that's because most of you are millennials, and that's something that happens to you. The other part that I want to mention about Jessica in general, you can see that she's a little bit smart, a little bit intelligent because of the institute. I'm joking, of course, because of all the institutions she's been studying in and the places where she's been working. Chatham House is one of them. KIT is another one. And I'm going to ask you, Jessica, how come we have so many people from Freie University? How did you know? We have about 5 or 6 people from university.
Oh, that's amazing. Maybe it was something that was sent out by one of our program coordinators about the program. So that's probably why. But that's nice to hear that so many people are involved.
Yeah. Or maybe because of the KIT relation, because Mahdi is working at KIT. And I don't know if he probably is the one who contacted Freie, but I'm very pleased that we have so many people from university. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, Ronald Mora, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Yes,
you just texted me. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you actually hear me fine? Like
yes.
Okay, cool. So let me see if we can set the video. Well, first of all, I did not intend to attend this session because I didn't plan for it. But at the last minute, I could join. In fact, I confirmed Fernando that I was not coming to join you guys. But anyways, I'm really happy I did. And I thank you, Charlie and Fernando, for this great job. It's always MultiPOD is it's full of such great people and great things. Well, my name is Ronald. I'm a veterinarian, but I have a formal education in epidemiology. So this is what I've been doing for the last few years. While I was born in Costa Rica, I was very, very interested since the very early stages of my career to study or work abroad. I was very, very interested in that. While I searched for opportunities, there were very scarce and not very clear. One of the things I help my mentees with is I try to help them define the path they want to follow, because it's a very personal decision that involves not only the vision you have in life from the professional point of view, but also from the personal point of view. So I didn't have that. I wish I had a MultiPOD, a mentor help me back then, but good news, it worked out at the end. I ended up working for the official veterinary services back in Costa Rica. And then after my second try, I was successful in joining the OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health, whose headquarters are located here in Paris. So that's something I'm very proud of. Here I do mainly disease notification activities. So we pretty much do we feed systems like ProMed or Empresi. We have our own system, which is a world known database called WAHIS, which publishes information from animal disease events in real time and updates the progress of diseases, animal diseases, and zoonotic diseases throughout the world. So it's really cool. It's really cool to work doing this. What do I expect in the future? Well, I expect what do I expect to do in my future? Well, I expect to go back home. I'm I think I left. It's interesting because even though that it was a dream of mine coming here to Paris to work for the OIE, I did leave the organization in a point where I was my work was very well recognized. So coming here it was an achievement, but at the same time, I left many projects unfinished. So it's a good thing that after a few years of experience, I can come back home. It's been 4 years now, and I plan to stay a couple more. But there's many things I can do, especially with the contacts and my experience now. I can do more things thanks to all of this. So that's pretty much my plan, and eventually perhaps join another organization later in my life, international organization. Concerning my greatest achievement, well, this is interesting. I would say my greatest achievement is breaking the cycle of poverty. My mom, just like many people back in my country a few decades ago, was part of was living under the poverty line according to international standards. So we were really poor people. However, thanks to many people in circumstances that perhaps no one can explain, I ended up in a private school that was funded by some sponsors from Canada, and I completed my education in a bilingual school, high school, and that boosted my opportunities. Then I joined the vet school, and from then, it's a bit of the story that I just told you. So I've been poor. I know what poverty is. My family, my family had been subjected to poverty for decades, and I was able, with one of my brothers, the other two didn't make it. I would say that didn't make it in terms of they did not complete formal education and they have jobs that are not very well paid. But well, somehow we could say they ended up, they also broke the cycle. But overall, my family, thanks to our efforts and not only my personal efforts, but everything what people have done for me around and around all these years, I broke the cycle of poverty. And now my mom lives in a very good place and has better conditions, and I'm proud of that. Well, characteristics of talent. Well, I'm a musician overall. In fact, many people ask if I was going to follow the musician path rather than the scientific path when I was back in high school. And I decided to do this and take the music as a hobby because in my country, you can certainly not, but back then, at least now it's very different. But back then, 20 years ago, you couldn't pretty much do anything with being the greatest musician of all. At least not, you couldn't make a living. So I decided to follow this path and take music as a hobby. So I play with many different bands and wrote songs with my previous bands. And now I'm very proud that I'm writing for the very first time my complete material. I'm right now in the process of writing my first EP, which is gonna see the light of day, I hope in January. And I wrote this, it's a 5-piece album that will depict the story of the suicide of my brother back in 2017. It's a story I want to tell. I want people to hear that there's hope beyond depression. And this is some work I hope I can later share with the MultiPODians, and I hope you guys share too, and we can expand the message of hope and positive life.
Ronald has been with us as a mentor for a long time. What now, the 4 years?
Yeah.
Ronald, and his band, it was a rock metal band. And he's a composer and he plays the guitar, and I'm really very envious. He works also, the OIE is the equivalent of WHO, but for animal health. And he has a beautiful young daughter that I call the princess. Okay, so his moving story really emphasizes how somebody can start from a very poor origin and become a recognized international expert, worldwide recognized expert in the area of animal health, and at the same time keeps being the person that he is and pursuing another career in music at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I think we already had a round of introduction, and Alberto emailed me that he cannot connect, although his name is being displayed here. So I think we can move on to our next section. And I have a suggestion, because first we planned to have breakout rooms. I think since we are a group of 12, Fernando, what do you think? Shall we have a group discussion, or should we still do the breakout rooms?
I think we should ask them but otherwise we could have two groups of 6 or 7, or if the group prefers, you can raise your hand. We can continue this talk among the 12 or 14 of us. So please raise your hands, and then Charlie is the boss. She will tell you what to do.
I think now we have 11 participants, including you and I. I think it's easier if we have the group discussion here all together. Okay. So I will read the name, the question here, the discussion, the topic. So we're gonna predict one or more vital issues. That's, where is it? Let me find the complete question. Or Fernando, would you like to? Here it is, Confronting Humankind by 2075. Would you like to lead the discussion?
What I would like to do is, we have already gone through this exercise with another group of people, but I won't tell you the results until we as a group can look at the future. And some of us won't be here, but most of you mentees will be here because the life expectancy is going to be close to the 90s for your generation. So most of you will leave some of the issues. I'm not talking only about problems, but issues. And for example, now that space travel is starting, people are going to space. What about in 50 some years? If people will be traveling, what will be the consequences of that? Remember that happened with just the regular aviation, in the beginning of the 20th century was the first flight, but 20 years later or 15 years later, people were flying planes in the World War I and see what we have done. So there are issues and not necessarily problems. So that is what I suggest to everybody. To think about issues that you anticipate will be happening. And in 50 years from now, that would be an issue that humankind will be confronting. So
Jeremy.
Who wants to start?
Jeremy.
Okay.
Right. Let me start on the health side. I always have this vision that the change in technology, medicine, etc., artificial intelligence, will make it very probable soon that the whole issue of wellness will change. That even the concept of dying might be no longer, since you have replacement parts that can be ordered and made available. So it may have a whole new dimension for how health is practiced and the whole idea of global populations. That's just one of my big things. But the second one really has to do with the disappearance of the idea of the sovereign boundaries. I believe, again, in line with this whole interconnectedness, people are beginning to lose connection to a particular place. And the idea of nationalities, etc., are going to merge into this global community that you've never imagined, which will then be a launching pad for extraterritorial kind of civilizations. That's what I anticipate. So I'm holding on very much so, because I believe if I can hold on for another 20 years or so, I'll be on that transitional point to longevity.
And this thing about the sovereign countries is wonderful coming from a geographer. So the idea is amazing and intriguing. Okay, somebody else?
I actually want to speak in relation to what Jeremy said, but in your second point, you said that you think the notion of sovereignty might be blurred, but I personally think my background is a political scientist, and my research passion is in decolonization and equity. So from what I see is that I see many Western countries, they have very xenophobic migration policies, for example, or stance on asylum seekers or refugees. And I feel like it's gonna be actually a big challenge. Like, how do we be humanitarian and at the same, like, how do we integrate refugees and how do we take on more social responsibility? Because from the policies I've seen, I do not see, I still feel like also you see the wave of radical right-wing political groups or voters in Europe. Also, you see that in US, how the even the Biden administration are treating the Haitian asylum seekers. So I don't know. I think it's a very interesting topic. And the floor is open to, yeah, Amali and Madi, you guys. So shall maybe Amali goes first?
If I can kind of second what Charlie said, from studying my research currently, there seems to be cycles of issues. For example, when there is a movement towards, you say, like civil rights movements, often it's followed by a reactionary movement or conservative movement. And I think that might happen again, but the cycles might not be like time, it's not every 100 years this happens, but there tends to be. And I fear that the next few years, we're seeing, in Finland, where I am right now, there's a greater trend, a greater, I would say, right-wing movement that is occurring, even though it's a social democratic country. But you see this in other countries as well. And so I think a lot of issues we're facing now will come back even in in 50 years time, but maybe I'm being cynical. I hope that it doesn't occur. And sorry, I think there's a lot of hands up, so I will just shut up.
I see 3 hands, yes, Madi and Sue and Jean-Luc. So Madi, maybe you go first.
Yeah, I guess I can comment on the same point, but I have other points too. But just on this point, I guess I agree with Jeremy's point to a certain extent that I guess it's already happening, not exactly blurring the border and political and freedom of movement rather than freedom of movement of diseases and ability to collaborate and work on actual global health issues. And we see, for example, big difference for the response for Ebola, and right now for COVID, there is already much better collaboration to a certain extent. Of course, it is limited in many areas, and there are, but at least there were more considerations. And I guess in the future, this can still, I hope at least, to learn from the lessons of such experiences. So that's just my comment, and I guess I have other points to also look into the future, which is the 2 main issues that are starting right now, and I believe that they would be growing further: mental health and the effects of climate change, and that seem to be irreversible in the current situation and doesn't seem to be in the near future. So I guess such issues will be continuing to increase further. That's just to start.
Thank you, Madi.
Thank you.
Sue, would you like to go next?
Sure, and I think I'm echoing a lot of the themes everybody's raised. It immediately struck me when I saw the question. I don't see, and like Amalie, I think, or Amelie, sorry, maybe I'm being cynical, but I feel like we're going to continue to have populations that are marginalized. It doesn't matter whether we have technology. It doesn't matter whether we've been dealing with COVID in the most revolutionary way, getting a vaccine done, if we can't get people on board or even reach people. And Madi, I think you referred to this. Everything we're seeing now, and maybe Jeremy too, everything we're seeing now is probably still going to plague us. I was struck a few weeks ago by more popular press saying, hey, everybody in the US, we're going to have to live with COVID as an endemic disease. And of course, I'm thinking in my years of global health, the US has not lived with an endemic disease really since I was young, before the vaccines for measles, mumps, and rubella, chickenpox, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, polio. All of those were developed in my lifetime early on. And so I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I'm on the more pessimistic side about issues that we're going to continue. We're going to have a global divide generally, and it's not global by geographic, but by vax, anti-vax, big drug companies, no drug companies, whatever are the dividers. So thanks for my soapbox.
Thank you, Sue. I see 3 hands now, so I will say Jean-Luc first, and Laura next, and then
I will go, yeah, because I think maybe unfortunately I would not be able to remain up to the very end of the session. No, I think there are two main things, and one is exactly the same point that Jeremy started to launch. The blurring of the border. You can express the way that you want. It expresses itself in the political system that we have. It was based on boundaries, on national, and all that disappear and will continue to disappear. There is no contradiction to the fact of having more nationalism in the sense of segregation, excluding refugee. Those are two movements going along. But the fact of accept that you have a central power to which you have to concede your own freedom and recognize that one as an authority is disappearing. And this is how I read Jeremy's comment about boundaries ending up. The Caribbean is a wonderful place where boundaries have been respected, but at the same time create a unity of Caribbean countries. So you can have unity with boundaries, but I think boundaries disappear. And Facebook and social media are certainly the way to do that. And the second trend, I think, is inequality. I think that inequality will continue to increase, and that is really extremely interesting. We have difficulties to find a global leadership mechanism because I think, unfortunately, all the authorities are looking for an old system, which is democracy as it has been invented 100 years ago. It still continues to work, but the system is not working anymore. It's not enough. We need to reinvent something. So positive or negative, that's depends how you want to see the glass of water. I'm a positive person, so human beings live, for a long time. We are biological cells. We have 4 billion years of experience as a cell that evolve little by little, and it will continue to evolve. So that will continue. Now we have to find, and that's why MultiPOD is so critical. We have to find out a way to rearrange those forces, call it mental health, call it also animal climate change, because it's critical for public health. Disease will appear more and more because we are connected. And from the disaster management point of view, stopping a virus at the border is so ridiculous. Creating a passport is so absurd. And all that is based on politics because we have a political system that doesn't correspond anymore. So I think the fact of not recognizing that borders are not there anymore, that we are living in another world. Authority is not with Zuckerberg. Authority is with a Chinese connecting to an Australian, then make another group. So that's really what is driving us. And we need young people, smart people, to think better than the old people like me can think. So we need MultiPOD.
Jean-Luc, Charlie, before we go, since Jean-Luc is going to leave, why don't we ask everybody, we can take a picture, a photograph of everybody now, and then continue the discussion.
Yes,
Why
great.
don't we do that?
I don't have my makeup. Is it okay?
I put some. Yeah, you look great.
So let me go to my screenshot.
Ron, I
One
want to
second.
see you. All right.
Yeah, Ron, turn your camera on. You're
Okay,
beautiful.
he probably left, but we see his name. We're only.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got it. Thank you very much.
And the other thing, Charlie, I can share the screen now, so I will be able to show the slides I was working so hard on last night.
Okay, sure. Yes, and I see also 2 hands are raising. Juan Manuel and Ronald Mora, they would like to also speak. So Dizzy, would you like to go now or be after them?
Yeah, why don't we give the floor to the people who haven't spoken yet, because we want to have the list of issues and then we can go back.
So who would like to go first, Juan Manuel or Ronald Mora?
Okay.
Maybe Juan
Okay.
Manuel. Okay.
Here I am. I am with the mic open. I love the exercise of working in futures. I have done that all my life. But this time I have two points to include in Fernando's list. Number one, I think in 50 years from now, we'll have an emergency of authoritarianism, okay? Especially because there might be a generalized conflict situation in the world. That's number one. And number two, I'm very concerned about extreme deterioration of the planet's environment. I think these are two issues that should be put in that list. And I learned a lot from all the interchange that is taking place. By the way, Jeremy, I'm very glad that you are a Bayesian. You know, I start my international career in Barbados, in the Eastern Caribbean, and I really appreciate the work over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ronald Mora, would you like to go next?
Yeah, just real quick. I just want to, I feel very passionate about this subject, so I'm going to refer to this particular, and I'm going to give my impressions of the future. So for this particular subject, I completely agree with Sue. I'm afraid I'm usually a bit skeptic about things, and most notably people. And I also liked one of the words that was mentioned before, which is cycles. And I think this is coming on and off, like the sympathy for the other, for people in a worse situation than the one we're in, is something that characterizes certain part of the population, but certainly not the majority of the population. And this has been like this since the beginning of times. This is something intrinsic to the human being. So I don't think this is ever going to change. However, I do have to mention an example, and this is of me living here in France, in Paris, for the last 4 years. I'm sure Jean-Luc has another vision. Perhaps this is my very personal vision. I see, because of the colonies, because of very complex cultural mechanisms, the population of people coming from Muslim countries increasing here in France in an important pace. So I do see, like in 50 years from now, interesting cultural events that could be derived from this particular policy that some countries have. So yes, some countries are more hostiles in receiving people coming from abroad, but some other, like France, they have this, I don't know how to call it. they have this policy, which is not a formal official policy, but they do accept some sort of immigration from the countries where they left a mark in the past, in their colonial past. So I see this population is growing and growing, and I see this having already an impact in the culture. That doesn't mean it's a negative impact. I have to say that very clearly. So that's my position. And I don't think that the countries that are currently they have this strong hostile position towards migration, they will dramatically change. Although I do acknowledge the lecture that Jean-Luc made of the colleague's comment, and I do see that already happening, especially for instance in terms of international trade. That was not the case 50 years ago, and now goods can be commercialized without border restrictions, as it was the case in the past. So this is a good example of this globalization, and perhaps one of the lines of thought the colleague wanted to portray. The way I see the future in 50 years from now, for example, I see that the kids that we're raising right now, they will have access to technology, and I think this particular generation, like I see my daughter, for instance, she's 2, and she has access to this set of technologies that we didn't even have an idea humankind could develop. And this, for me, is a major change for the way people see the world. Well, I don't think this is going to change the core of the human being. I do believe this will drive people to do different things. Now, I heard artificial intelligence. This is one of the things that it's interesting. But we have not spoken about the consequences, negative consequences of artificial intelligence and big data, the use of big data, such as cyber crime and many other unfortunate events linked to the development of technology. So I would say in 50 years from now, we'll see a more modernized event, obviously more modernized world. And I will see, unfortunately, I would say we will probably lose some of the professions and they exist today. We'll probably not see them in the future. And this is also something I don't like, but this is probably something that's going to happen with we'll call it the digitalization of the world. So I stop because I tend to speak a lot.
Thank you. So I see Jeremy also raised his hand. Shall we go back to Jeremy, and then Dizzy, you can speak
Yes,
after.
because you see we kind of trying, sometimes when I think about it, we're almost scared to put ourselves, our feet across the boundaries of change that are emerging either from behaviors and technologies. So a lot of these conversations, either within the West or in the East, are really about resistance to this emerging recognition that the power of the state is being challenged for individual and other kinds of freedoms. So we have a false conversation that there is a divide between the US and China. But you look at what they're fighting. They're fighting these big entities in the private sector that are creating the tools that dismantle the traditional political state power and influence. And they're creating new cultures among our young generations that are building understanding for something that they all buy into other than what they have. I don't know, but I think that it is like, when you look at the history of change in a society, there are always these bodies or these entities that fight to hold on in spite of all the things that is changing around them. And I am sitting here thinking about that. And this comes into a disastrous management, into this new articulation about systemic risk. right? Which is changing that we cannot necessarily forecast, but it's going to be a result of all these interfaces of new technologies and tools that have impacts that cannot be anticipated, right? So there's a change. We know there's a change. Will it take place in the kinds of rigid structures that we know now? I doubt. So we can only what we call that now, foresight about this idea. Thanks.
Charlie, Monica Hernandez is here, I think.
Yes. Would you
Yeah,
like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, let me turn on my camera. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm Monica Hernandez. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I had an assignment due this morning. But all that said, I am a student. I'm a PhD student, shall I say candidate. I entered into candidacy this summer. So I'm working on my, thank you. I'm working on my dissertation. I'm in the preliminary data analysis phase. And I'm in, the program is called Population Health, and I live here in Galveston, Texas. And I'm at UTMB, the University of Texas Medical Branch.
What is your greatest achievement and the fun fact?
Oh, okay. My greatest achievement, I think it's having passed my qualifying exams, having passed everything up to this point, because it's just, just the continuation of my studies and my academic and professional career. So for me, it's a big achievement. Of course, I've had lots of support and mentorship along the way. Dr. Sotelo here is my mentor. So I've had great support along the way. So definitely haven't done this alone. And something interesting about me, let's see. I don't know if it's that interesting. My family's from Colombia. I think that's kind of interesting. And I was actually born in the States, but raised by Colombian family. So I tell people I'm like café con leche. I'm like a mixture of both Colombian and American. So yeah, that's my fun fact.
Thank you.
What about the main issue in the next?
Yeah, I was listening to everybody discuss. I think this is a really interesting conversation. I think I was thinking about this for myself, and I think that we're just in an age of misinformation, and I think that you see this especially among the young generation. You see it also in academia, outside of academia. So I think it's kind of like the question is like, what is truth? Like, what is true? It's kind of hard sometimes to know what is real, what is not real, what's fake, what should I believe, what should I not? And so there's just a lot. I think I know for sure on social media there's a lot. I have friends and family who are on one side versus another. And so it's kind of hard to, I think for me personally, I guess on an academic and also on a personal front to know kind of what's what. So I think that that's been a challenge, and really like how science fits into this, how research and evidence fits into this, how politics fits into this. It's just kind of become a jumble in my personal opinion. So I would say that's probably an issue that I've personally faced, and one that I think will continue for, I don't know how long, but hopefully not forever.
Thank you. Charlie, I have a suggestion. Thank you, Moni.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moni. I thought you were of Mexican origin.
Oh, really?
Everybody thinks that, no problem.
Yeah, my family's Colombian. I love Mexico. It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
Let me just make a point about the border between US and Mexico. A few years ago, maybe two decades, about 1 million people crossed the border every day. Now, of course, there's not the same facility, but some of my family live in the northern part of Mexico, and they used to cross from one side to the other just to buy milk, for example. So it was very easy to travel. The second point is that PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, used to have an office in El Paso covering the US-Mexico border, because right now there are 17 million people in both sides of the border, And there's very, very strong communication and links between the two countries there. And what is amazing is the difference between the economic status of the US and Mexico. And there's where you see what is happening. And Juan Manuel was a representative in Mexico, no? Juan Manuel. 2 times, or I don't know how many times. So he knows the country. But I have also a suggestion to make. You have made a list of several issues that we will see the next 50 years. The point is that we did a study and we have the opinions of 107 other people. So, and they coincided at the end. So if you agree, I would like to present you the results of that study, and then we can come up with some conclusions.
Great.
Because in that case, we only ask them about problems, and problems affecting global health. So I'm so proud that I can share my screen now. And let me show you my last slides. Again, I work a lot on that, with this. Perhaps, Charlie, if you have been taking notes, perhaps instead of the groups, we can list some of the issues, not all of them, but the ones in which we have had some agreement. For example, the issue of migration, the political changes. Remember, it's a pendulum going from left to right all the time, every 200 years or whatever. So perhaps we can have a list here at the end.
I'm sorry, I could not take notes because I was busy moderating.
Okay, I'm sorry, you were, okay. So I have my notes and then people can correct me. What I would like to do with you, first, in October of 2019, we were able to convene a group of about 26 mentees in Berlin for the World Health Summit. And at that time, Lauren McDonough from Canada, who is there with WHO in Europe, in Copenhagen, presented a study that we have done, a survey. But at the same time, and this has to do with the networking, Netweaving that we are doing, we were going to have the official launch of the Coalition for Global Health Innovation. At that time, it was not called the coalition, and I will explain later on. But going, and this is what the network was supposed to be. I'm sorry. And this is what the coalition, or the initial idea in MultiPOD, was to have the SYPs, the students and young professionals belonging to MultiPOD, were going to start this network, this worldwide network. And first we started in 2018 with these MultiPOD young thinkers and innovators, but it didn't work. There were not enough people that were interested, or they were interested, but it was very difficult to get them to work because they were all volunteers and students and early professionals. And this time, the Coalition for Global Health Innovation is really working under the leadership of Jovana Ilkic from Serbia, and some people from Charlie's secretary of that. And we have people from Finland, they have people from Finland and other places. But that was the idea. Then the study that was presented, it was future challenges, but for some reason people focus on the problems for the next 50 years. And here are the results. By region, people belonging to different regions of WHO, this is Africa, this is the Eastern Mediterranean, this is Europe, this is the Americas, and this is Asia and the Western Pacific. And you can see that the first problem that everybody, this was 2019, was the climate crisis and environmental health. In 4 of the regions, people belonging to 4 of the regions, that's what they listed as number 1. For Africa, is the issue of health equity, access to health services, and of course, poverty, which includes many things, discrimination, neglect, etc., poor countries. And then they put climate crisis and environmental health, and then NCDs. NCDs were listed by several of the regions. I can tell you that about people identify between 24 health issues, but these are only the ones who got the greatest number, the largest number of votes. In Europe, for example, you have non-communicable diseases, and here they were concerned about what they call resource security and antimicrobial resistance. The difference, for example, in the Americas is that it was the same. Universal health coverage, I mean, it was the same here, but then it included universal health coverage and health systems and services. And in the Western Pacific, not surprisingly, they were talking about infectious and emerging diseases, talking about pandemics. That was in October of 2019, before we knew about COVID. They were divided into a senior generation and a young generation. The senior generation were people who had more than 10 or more years of experience, of professional experience. And the young generation were students and young professionals with up to 10 years of professional experience. And this is what you can see, climate crisis and environmental health. More, I mean, we didn't do any analysis because this was not a scientific study, it was just an exploratory survey. Young people thought more about climate crisis and environmental health than the senior generation. And on the other hand, and you saw that in our discussion right now, the senior generation thought more about the impact of technology. And the young people, it was only 2% because you grew up accustomed to new technology. In my time, when I was born, there were very, very old mechanical typing machines. So and now what you can do with the text is amazing. We communicated via telex and telegraph when we wanted to communicate to other countries. And phone, we needed to ask for permission to use long distance in my organization. And now you can communicate everywhere. And that's just an example. Now, the main issues were climate crisis and environmental health, non-communicable diseases, and the issue of health, equity, and poverty, and then technology. But people didn't go into the issues of political changes, migration, and all the ones that you have already mentioned, artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to show you this because they not only, the 12 questions, they not only ask about problems, but what about the main obstacles that should be overcome to address those issues and the resources that would be needed. And everybody says political will, but the political will includes everything you have talked about, the pendulum, you know, democracy, what are the priorities for everybody. But it has to do with power. Political will is not only the presidents and prime ministers or the kings, is the power of the population, the power of everybody. And financial barriers and resource scarcity. Any country, every country, I have been to, and I have visited or worked as a consultant in 65 countries. There are resources. They have resources, but people many times don't know where those resources are and how to mobilize them. And Juan Manuel can give you a lecture of several days regarding that. And then the issue of regional and global collaboration. If you don't have that, it's going to be very difficult in this global community that is happening and is going to continue to happen to really make any progress. And this has to do with the resources that they identify as needed. The need for collaboration, interdisciplinarity in knowledge and skills. And that's why this is what we are trying to do in MultiPOD. And then the essential part of communication. And that you start with networking, using the technology and doing the netweaving that we need between countries, individuals, professions, disciplines, etc., etc. Oh, no, this is for later. So I would like to see if we can come up with some conclusions of what would be the main issues confronting humankind in 50 years from now. And let's see if somebody has an idea of giving us the list of 3. If we can agree the list, not only of 1, but of 3 of the ones people mentioned, which are the issue of technology, including artificial intelligence, etc. The idea that the sovereign countries are going to disappear and that we are going to be a global community. The idea that democracy was going to disappear in some places, but I want to pose to you that it's a pendulum. It will go from left to right. The issue of civil rights, the problem of movement of the population from one country to another, from one area of the world to another one, climate change, and Mahdi mentioned something really important, mental health. And if you think about that, each and every generation, every person in the world, at some point will have something to do with any or both of this, mental or dental health. It's amazing. Dental is what gives you your capacity to eat, and mental is what gives you your capacity to function as a member of society and as an individual member. So those 2 issues are critical, your mental health and your dental health. I'm sorry about that. And discrimination, exclusion, the issue of inequality, and then Juan Manuel is the first to mention the environment. And now you can see that we evolved from public health to international health to global health. And now we are talking about planetary health. And at some point, we're going to talk about interplanetary health. And planetary health includes what we are including now in MultiPOD, the environment, development, and health of the whole globe. So, and the other ones that were really interesting, when Ronald talked about empathy and sympathy, if we are going to be our brother and sisters keepers or their enemies. And that is basic. And one thing that I mentioned to the mentees at MultiPOD is that we are very lucky. I hate, the word luck, but that most of the people entering our field are women. And I'm sorry if this sounds sexist or but I really, really think about that. The vision of the world is going to change once we have more and more women leaders. And that's why I also recommend and suggest all the young women to try to join Women in Global Health, which is trying to do precisely that. So that's, maybe I missed something, but we have identified at least 7 different main issues by this group of 11 people. And mix that with the opinion of 107 people, half and half. There were half women and half men. There were half, for some reason, that's the way it came. Half of them were young professionals and half of them were older professionals. And yeah, and that's basically it. They were very similar, both groups. So anybody wants to mention what would be the 3 main issues confronting humankind in 50 years? Just very short, just the names. Okay. Please, Jeremy, you had asked. I let Charlie manage the participation. But I would like
Sure.
to.
Yeah, everyone feel free to unmute yourself since we're already running like 10 minutes over the schedule. So feel free to unmute yourself and give your wonderful input.
I'm down to take a stab at it if no one else everyone seems to want to talk, but no one wants to talk over anybody. I can just see a bunch of us hesitating here. To me, I think if I could sum it up in 3 succinct things, it would be the effects of climate change. I think that's number 1 on a lot of people's lists. And if we don't deal with climate change, we're not going to have much of a world left to deal with. So I think that's got to be number 1 for me. I think the effects of globalization in a broad sense, and that includes nationalism, finance, the engineering, the whole spectrum that comes with globalization. And then I think, to me, the effects of technology have got to be 3. And that includes things like AI, that includes the mental health aspect that goes with technology, that includes the interconnectedness. I think the effects of technology, for example, Bitcoin, was a new technology that was developed that we did not necessarily anticipate the effects of. And I think going forward, our society is so technologically driven that we're going to see things in 50 years that we just did not anticipate the effects of, like space travel. We're losing resources, we're sending resources to space. Is that going to change the balance on Earth, et cetera, et cetera? There's just so many new technologies that to me has to be part of the future.
Charlie, you need, thank you, Jessica. We need to tell them to tell everybody, please, to just mention 1, 2, 3, climate change, technology, etc. So that we just need to have the summary for that.
Yeah.
Jessica, because you explained. And you
Thank you. Juan Manuel, would you like to go next? I see you raising your hand.
Yes, 3 things as Fernando is asking. Number 1 is in the political arena. When we talk about borders, when we talk about authoritarianism, when we talk about how is our attitude towards migrants and so on. So number 1 is politics issue. Number 2 will be technology ones. And number 3, those issues related to the environment. These are my 3 points as a way of summary. And then I would like to ask Fernando and Charlie, maybe if you can share when the session on Saturday takes place, what the other group has suggested. My last point will be, maybe in another exercise like this, we should look for solutions. Once we have agreed on which are the problems, now look collectively for a solution in a network fashion. This is what we are building a network now, a solution that we can find all together once we agree in which are the main problems. Thank you.
Is there anybody who has different priorities or different themes to mention, different issues?
I think, I wasn't sure if this was actually mentioned, but it sort of ties in with globalization, but I would say the demographic change or the demographics, or well, I should say like the population has doubled since the 60s, and I believe that the population will continue to expand, but along with that, as with the aging population, we have different attitudes between generations. So, and that affects voting and who comes into power, and then that then affects like governance and things, and just has a flow-on effect if you want to consider it that way. So I think that's a very important issue, but I think that comes under climate or the environment. I think that's number 1, and second, I think the population changes, and then number 3 for me would be to do with digitalization and new technologies overall.
Excellent. Okay. Anybody else? Any other? Because right now we have 4, climate change by 2 people, and the issue of globalization, population changes. Remember, there are also natality is diminishing in some countries. So they're trying to get people from other countries. So there's a paradox there. And then 3 people chose technology and then the political arena. So those were the 4 issues: climate change, globalization, population changes, technology, and changes in the political arena. I think those are,
I see Jeremy unmuted himself, so maybe he has something he would like to share with us.
I need to show my slides at the end. So if we can get at least 2 people to stay, I want to show you, because they have to do with the Netweaving, the next steps. And I'm sorry that this is taking.
And Jeremy, would you like to share something with us? I see you unmuted yourself. Otherwise,
Yes.
we.
Yes, I was. The whole idea of cultural fusion. I don't know how you articulate it, saying, but I see that will happen. And maybe it's the subset of this whole technology and digitalization, maybe.
Yeah, the issue of technology, politics, and globalization, I mean, they're going to intersect at some point. And so there are two issues, the humankind issues, and the one that has to do with our environment, the climate change and the planetary. So it's the same that has happened in epidemiology always, is the individual, the agent, and the environment. And that's what we are talking about. In our case, the individual is a collectivity of humans. And then the environment is everybody, the plants, the animals, etc., our environment. And the agents are the problems and the issues that we are confronting. A pandemic, etc., etc. Okay, please.
Then I would like to just add one thing. I want to take it to another aspect of humanity. I think like when we talk about like this cultural fusion, this multiculturalism, I feel like there's also a lot of resistance to that. Like now we're living in a very globalized world. People are mobilizing, people are migrating, and people are more connected with different cultures. And I think there's still many people who are living in a different world where it's more segregated, and they are also by themselves. Maybe some people who are very privileged, but they decide to shut down certain cultures. And I think, yeah, take it to another level when it comes to humanity. Maybe we need more compassion, understanding, and curiosity to other cultures, and also humility. I don't understand your culture, but I'm curious. Like, I don't assume things about your culture. So that's my 2 cents here.
Great. Thank you. So please stay to see my last 2 slides. And that's all I want to show you. And I thank you for move this. Finally, what you see here, these are cells going to different regions of the world. And that is the world. And this is the net. Multi-country, interdisciplinary, transgenerational. This is the point that is really, really a particular, unique feature of MultiPOD. What has been mentioned here by Charlie at the end is truly, truly, really important, because we are also multicultural, multilingual community. And we have people from all races and some of the ethnicities, not all of them, and all the major religions. And we are all working together. And when we ask in some of the applications about the values that people have and the characteristics that they dislike the most, you know which number 1 was? Honesty. Honesty. And that's why we have the values of MultiPOD with the acronym IC. I of integrity, S of solidarity, E of excellence, and E of equity. And our foundation is R, respect. And I stole this from the Pan American Health Organization. So those are the 5 values that we have and have to do with being honest, being sincere, being whatever we need to do in our lives. And what are we weaving? What are we weaving here? A blend of intelligence and talent. My friends, all of you are going to have an impact on society. Maybe the place where you live, maybe your country, maybe your community, or maybe the global level. Charlie is one of them that I have told her that I want to see her from another planet. I will be on another planet. See what is the impact that you have had. But we want a network of action and ideas. People meet or communicate to say, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth today. That's what I hate social media that everybody else or most people love. But you know, there's so much information and trivia and opinions over there that people cannot concentrate on ideas that lead to actions. All of you, all of us need to be well-rounded professionals and well-rounded human beings. That's why we ask you about your talents, what makes you special and unique. And everybody has one characteristic that distinguishes you from everybody else. And we are building a tapestry of disciplines, countries, and generations. Think about all of these concepts, because that's what we would like to start. And we are starting that now. And this is to be continued. We will reach you again and ask you if you want to start this Netweaving network. Intelligence, talent, action, ideas, by well-rounded professionals, interdisciplinary, multi-country, and transgenerational. And this is courtesy of our assistant coordinator. To communicate through the LinkedIn, we have what is called a corporate or organization page. And this is the link, the MultiPOD community on LinkedIn. And this is my personal plea. If you know somebody almost as good as you, please don't be humble, okay? Please invite them to join us as mentees or mentors next year. And the application period starts November 1st and concludes January 31st, 2022. So the only thing is to thank all of you for not only your presence, but your active participation. And I'm really happy that there were few of us, because we could have a more prolonged and more fruitful dialogue and conversation. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you very much for joining, everyone. And please feel free to email us with your feedback and brainstorm with us. How would you like to, how would you envision our intergeneration intellectual dialogue and discussions from all disciplines, many disciplines. And I see today as a beautiful starting point. Thank you very much. Wish you a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.